Alright, hello everyone, welcome to my first stream. I had one up previously that went for about an hour, and then I realized it wasn't picking up any of the audio from the video I was reacting to, so that was cool. Anyway, I took it down, and we're gonna go ahead and try to go over all this silly stuff with Chaya Raichik again. I'm probably going to skip over a few parts here, but to give a brief summary from what I've seen so far, Chai is stupid. She doesn't make any points. She runs away from them constantly. She doesn't own up to any of the things she does. She wants to constantly criticize the interviewer here, Taylor Lawrence, who, by the way, was doing a fantastic job for all the things that she does. She doesn't want to take responsibility for her followers' actions, but she wants the interviewer to take responsibility for her. Chaya doesn't want to take responsibility for the actions of her followers, but she wants Taylor Lorenz and other people associated with Taylor Lorenz, progressives in general, to take responsibility for the actions of their followers. She is, as you probably seen from the clips floating around Twitter, obviously she believes in the great replacement theory. She hates trans people, wants to eradicate she just wants to eradicate them, get rid of any access to things like HRT or transition, other medical procedures for them. She wants to, she wants to do a lot of things. So today, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead since I went over this earlier, and we're just going to pick up about 18 minutes in. Sorry if there's no... Sorry for skipping a few things. There's absolute gold here as Chaya stares blankly into the eyes of Taylor Lorenz, and the monkey with the symbols clashes together in her head. So let's go ahead and try this again. Woo! Boom. This is them. This is Taylor Lorenz.
If Trump was reelected, would you be interested in a job with his administration?
Oh yeah, another thing that I went over earlier that I'm gonna quickly briefly summarize here is Chaya Raichik is perfectly good with condemning drag shows, saying everyone there is a pedophile groomer, but she doesn't want to say anything in criticism of things like child beauty pageants. She also later is asked by Taylor Lorenz about like the sexualization of young women by like straight men. Chaya Raichik completely ignores that it exists, and she can't perceive it. It doesn't exist to her. So, yeah.
Maybe. Who are you supporting in the election?
There's only one. There's one candidate, Trump. Yeah.
Will you be campaigning?
Also, we don't want to forget, Chaya Raichik here is a gender abolitionist. The woke mind virus has gotten to her. She believes that gender does not exist or should not exist. We stand a queen.
On his behalf?
We'll see.
Are you hoping to kind of, I guess, like, would you see yourself in D.C.?
I haven't made any plans yet.
How did you get connected with Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, and how many times have you been to that state?
I was there once. They have, unfortunately, a lot of wokeness in their red state, and I'm trying to help.
How'd you originally how'd Oklahoma get on your radar as opposed to some others?
Because I started posting about the stuff going on in schools there, like I do across the country, and then, people were very upset that this was happening in their schools.
Oh yeah, also earlier on in the interview, I believe, Taylor Lorenz, the interviewer, asked Chaya about like what books Chaya is looking to remove, and literally the only ones she listed were like LGBTQ friendly books, because of course Chaya just wants to eliminate any visibility or resources, materials that queer people could get access to. Chaya is also against sex education, as we'll see, I think, a little later on in the interview. She believes sex education should be completely removed as any form of like a federal mandate or whatever, and believes that sex education should be moved to the home because fundamentally Chaya Raichik doesn't believe in sex education. She thinks that children should be vulnerable and ignorant, so that way when they're abused by their family members in the home, they have no way of identifying it and no way of seeking out help. Because, after all, Chaya Raichik is, I'm just going to start calling her Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok is, of course, a conservative, so, pedocon theory, it's a theory like gravity is a theory. Yeah, she doesn't give a fuck about child sexual abuse.
So, and you've been once.
Also, it's very funny.
To be on the board, or have to do with education, the education system there. Being that I don't believe you have children in the Oklahoma schools, you don't live in Oklahoma, you've only been once. How does that qualify you to sort of serve in that capacity?
What are the qualifications that they require to be on this committee?
USA Today reported on that, but I believe it was that you had to. Oh God, I might get it wrong, but I think you have to be some sort of educator. You have to have worked as an educator.
Okay, I was a teacher once.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay. So you feel like that qualifies you to sort of inform policies in Oklahoma?
I wasn't aware.
I love how, despite the fact that Chaya Raichik, Lips of TikTok, is now on the Board of Education for Oklahoma, she was not made aware, or by either herself or the people that appointed her, of any qualifications. So she literally has no clue what her job is about or how to do it. I think that's pretty telling. She's not on this board because she's genuinely qualified for it. She's on the board because the board is conservative, and she's conservative, and she has a community full of hateful conservatives that both her and the board can weaponize to further fuel the moral outrage against trans people and queer people broadly.
Aware of any kind of qualifications that they require. I don't believe they require any qualifications.
Yeah.
So-
No qualifications necessary to be a member of the state education board.
We saw the tragic death of Nex, a young
very
child.
tragic.
I'm curious about your reaction. You posted a selfie shortly after people were asking you to address the issue, and you said, to the haters and the losers. Who are you addressing in that statement?
Anyone who hates me and anyone who's a loser.
Okay. Why would you choose to post that in response to people asking you to speak about this child's death?
It was not a response to that.
I guess, why would you post that?
Just
prior to
convenient
making any
timing, that's all.
statement about Nex's death?
So, just to be clear, you're trying to police me on when I'm allowed to post
No,
selfies?
just curious.
I wanted to post it. I thought it was a cute picture, and I just decided to post it.
I just want to also, real
feel
quick,
about that?
comment on Chaya's shirt. Everyone's commented about it. I think it's a picture of Taylor Lorenz. This picture of Taylor Lorenz is funny, but it's also better looking than basically anything that Chaya Raichik could do to her appearance to try and make it look better. So
It's
I will
very
be petty.
tragic. It's horrible.
Do you believe Nex should have been allowed to receive gender-affirming care?
She should not be allowed to go on irreversible puberty blockers or get sex change surgery.
How do you think about the fact that, so often your posts, things that you post about hospitals, libraries, schools, etc., after you make these posts about them, they deal with threats. Sometimes bomb threats, sometimes harassment.
Okay, I'm not sure what to do now
Um,
because it's not picking up.
it's
No one's
we don't know who's
watching.
call-
There's no audio. Oh.
it's
Well, it's a good thing no one's watching.
calling
Back
in
to
the
it.
threats. And
I said it before and
mean,
I'll say it again. Chaya Raichik
doctors
doesn't
are
get a
bad. I
complaint
said that
about like
1,000
death threats
times.
or
People
violent
call
threats.
them
I mean, they're
threats
not good.
should
Don't send people
be
death threats and
arrested
stuff.
and
But of
investigated.
people,
You can't call them bomb threats.
in terms of what people can complain
But I
about,
don't- I
that
just don't
Chaya
know
Raichik
what
is
what does it have to do with
very
it.
far
I
at the
guess,
bottom of the list.
a recent NBC investigation found at least 33 instances where you posted about a specific person or institution, and that person or institution was immediately bombarded with death threats and violent threats, including bomb threats, other violent threats. That's a pretty significant correlation. How do you, what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
it?
I don't know if you saw, but I got like tons of death threats this week after the entire media machine came after me. So are they responsible for those?
I don't think that there's the same correlation. Are you receiving bomb threats?
I'm receiving death threats like, "Hi, I'm gonna come murder you."
Yeah, and I definitely sympathize with you there, because I
Like
get those
literally,
every day.
the article goes live and then I get those threats.
I get the same thing when a Fox News article goes live.
So is the journalist responsible? The journalist who posted the article?
I would say, there's a different responsibility when we're talking about media, and I guess to me, a death threat is different than a violent bomb threat. A death threat,
So I think it's worth mentioning here. I said it before, but I'll say it again. As far as like the responsibility of journalists, social media figures, political pundits, so on and so forth, in regards to people who follow them, you're not responsible for literally everything your followers or your fans do. However, as a public figure or a content creator of any sort, you do, I think, have a responsibility to be careful about what messages you send or what precedents you set. I think you should be very aware of what you create or you should be very aware of how what you create impacts the people in your audience, what messages they take away from them. So while you're not fully responsible as, like I said, social media figure, journalist, blah, 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 you should still be aware and be very careful. Also, it's worth mentioning that when it comes to journalism, at least specifically, it's very different to report on a private person versus like a public figure or an institute. When you're reporting on these things, the impact and the ability for the thing that you're reporting on to handle the sudden visibility is very different. A private citizen doesn't have the same resources as a public figure or as like an institute. So yeah, you should definitely be very careful when you're doing something like that.
I think we're kind of getting normalized to them, unfortunately, online. We get a lot of them. Probably you and I get them constantly, 24/7. I'm wondering kind of how you think about taking these obscure people, right? Because you and I are both public figures, and I imagine you and I we have a high tolerance, right, for what we can handle online. Say you're taking a private citizen, a gay teacher, for instance, in a small town, and you post about that person, and then that person subsequently, who had no media presence prior, receives pretty violent threats. How does that make you feel?
We need to answer the question first, though. Is the journalist responsible for actions that have to happen after?
So you consider sort of your posts about private citizens, incendiary posts, you consider that journalism?
I'm an independent journalist.
Uh-huh. And do you think that there's a difference between doing journalism on a completely private figure that has no public presence and no institutional power versus reporting on a powerful public institution or person?
You still didn't answer the question. Is the journalist responsible for reporting for any actions that happen after the reporting?
Personally, I think that journalists should take care and should
I also want
consider
to say
sort of.
Taylor Lorenz is very well put together in this interview. She handles herself very well. She comes across with very friendly, open candor and just air about her that I really appreciate. It makes her look very good, and it definitely puts Chaya on the back foot a little bit in terms of how she comes off to people. I also like that Taylor is doing this interview in a public space, because that makes it more difficult for Chaya to openly espouse her hateful rhetoric, because random people are around them, it puts you more on the spot when you're in the public like that. And I know Chaya is a public figure, so she might be used to that kind of thing, but doing it in public versus in private definitely puts Chaya under a lot more social pressure to be careful about what she says, versus if they did a private interview where, even if Taylor was very aggressive, I feel like Chaya would have more room to espouse her narrative, her rhetoric.
The framing, and I think that they should do their best not to not to appear as if they encourage that sort of behavior. I've noticed that you haven't necessarily publicly condemned that behavior, publicly told your supporters, listen guys, stop, stop calling in these bomb threats.
Who said it's my followers? Do you have information that it's my followers?
I guess who else's followers would it be?
I don't know.
So
I don't
There's
know.
300 million people in this
I
country.
don't know who
So
it could
you
be. It could be
post
Osama's
bomb threats
followers. I
follow,
don't
And
know.
you're saying it might be just unrelated people?
I think it's just
I
pure
have
coincidence.
No idea. We don't know who it is.
Have you taken steps to find out?
We filed some FOIAs with police departments. Yeah.
What have you found?
Like the
we
police
haven't
give
gotten
a shit.
anything useful yet that we can use. But actually, one of them we know it's like some foreign actor, not even from the country. So who knows who it is?
How the fuck would the police know that?
It seems like Twitter is your main platform these days, although I know you've been posting on Rumble. How much money have you made from the platform?
It's personal.
Is that what sort of portion of your revenue is based on Twitter as opposed to other platforms?
That's personal. So speaking of Twitter, do you regret not getting a blue check? Because then you can make tons of money.
No, I don't monetize online.
I don't monetize.
And
Yeah, I
Chaya's
don't-
fixation
I-
is
if
purely
I was a
on
independent
making
journalist
money. That's the
making
entire
it,
reason she even
not-
began
I-
on this
I don't
moral outrage, is so
monetize-
she could make a quick buck off of the genuinely unintelligent conservatives who just want to rage out against the woke mind virus. So
on any of my social platforms. I noticed you
Chaya
sort of
literally
looking at
standing
the
there
media.
like,
You
what,
changed
you
your
don't
approach
want money?
recently, or at least
What?
it seems like you're being a little bit more antagonistic towards the media and a little bit more forceful in the way that you speak about the media. What led to that change?
Being lied about and defamed for 2.5 years.
she gets no right
Guess
to
what
talk
led
about
to-
people
I would
lying about
assume you
her
felt like
and
that for quite
defaming
a while.
her.
What led you to sort of change the way that you speak about the media, or the sort of?
Well, their attacks were ramping up. So, like I said, the lies and the defamation, the hypocrisy.
The
If
hypocrisy.
you eradicate transgenderism, which I believe you suggested in a post today.
No, I never suggested that.
Oh, okay.
to
You
eradicate
reposted a post that was advocating for that. What would happen to the people that have already medically, socially, completely transitioned and are leading happy lives? What would happen to them? I mean, what's your plan for that? If transgenderism doesn't exist, which it seems like that's what you believe, what happens to all the people living happy lives as trans people?
Well, first of all, the whole trans it's based on a lie.
Now, before this continues, this was a clip that floated around Twitter, which I've seen before, so I know her answer. But I'm gonna let it play out, and then we'll go from there.
You can't change your gender.
Okay, but
So they could go live their life. I mean, I can't tell someone what to do in their house.
sounds like you do want to tell people what to do in their house.
I never said that.
So you're totally okay with people being trans, just not as long as they're in public.
No, I never said that.
This is what I mean by Chaya Raichik just completely being unwilling to defend anything she says or believes. The reality is, if in regards to like adult people who have been, I guess, post-transition for a long time, she would do to them the same thing that she wants to do with people who are pre-transition. She wants to strip them of their medical access to like hormones or necessary surgeries or anything like that. She wants to hunt them down. She wants to document where they are, who they are, what they do, so on and so forth. And then she wants to take away their rights and eventually just lead them to a death camp. That's what she honestly, genuinely believes, but she's too much of a coward to say it.
The whole thing is based off of a lie, and I think that this lie cannot be mainstream in our society. It's a lie.
And what harm is it causing, do you believe?
I like the truth. I like truth.
Right.
So to
but
try to make her point better, or, well, I guess, hold
I'm
on.
saying what's the harm
'Cause there's
of
more to
people
it.
expressing their gender identity differently than you believe it to be? What harm are they causing?
Like I said,
Also,
we are
I apologize for any click lack of my keyboard or clicking of my mouse. I can't control the gain on this mic,
What's the
unfortunately.
harm? You might believe it to be false, but what's
the harm is that there's a lie that is very mainstream and is being embedded into every institution.
I guess I'm wondering what the material harm is. Aside from it's maybe something that you disagree with, as in your version of the truth is different than their version of the truth, what is the material harm of them living their life as a woman or man or gender that you don't agree?
Not anything that's wrong is there a material harm necessarily.
So there's no harm.
I didn't say that.
So can you name a single harm?
The way that it's pushed onto kids, first of all.
What's pushed onto kids?
Gender ideology, transgenderism.
But if they're leading happy lives and they just...
So to try and make her argument a bit better than she did, what Chaya is, well, I guess the better argument of what her point is that by allowing people to explore gender expression beyond the normal standards we have set as in society today, you kind of engender this attitude that's disrespectful towards the normal, breaking away from more traditional roles assigned to the different genders or sexes or whatever. By setting this precedent, it's not really a material harm thing, like she said. It's more of a spiritual harm that she talks about, which is, of course, not provable in any way, shape, or form, so it's irrelevant. She doesn't think there needs to be material harm, which there isn't. People living their lives as who they want to be is, well, I mean, unless they're wanting to be like a murderer or a tyrant, I think, generally speaking, people living the lives that they feel more fulfilled in is good. But yeah, like I said, her argument, it's more like by setting these precedents, by bucking the norms, so to speak, that's the harm, because we're not fitting into stereotypical heteronormative roles, which is, obviously that's counterintuitive to what we know, which is people who, when we give people the ability to more appropriately express themselves more in line with how they perceive themselves, people are happier. It's pretty self-explanatory, but Chaya doesn't like happiness, so...
Well, there are studies that show that they're more suicidal after transition.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, there's a study out of Sweden.
That is not true. That is not
It's so
true.
funny that she mentions this particular study, because I was scrolling through Twitter last night, as you do when you're bored and you have your phone next to you, and I found just some random right-winger who is talking about literally the exact same study, but the study was only... It was cited in a blog post that was like literally less than 5 seconds into it. It was framing it as the transgenders are going to trans your kids, or like this social pathogen is spreading among our children. We have to stop it. It's like, of course, this is what she cites.
Well, taking into account all of the happy people that have transitioned, who are not harming anyone.
It's like citing that Deborah So study.
If someone says, I'll be happier if I'm blind, should a doctor pull their eyes out?
Classic conservative argument of, okay, well, if someone says they're happy without a penis and they get their penis chopped off, does that mean we should suddenly allow people who say they'd be happier with their legs chopped off to get their legs chopped off? Which, no, they're not comparable in any way, shape, or form. I don't know how to tell you that, like, a doctor would not, like, disability would not make someone happier. You know what I mean? It's not a disability to get your sexual reassignment surgery. It's a literal disability to have your legs chopped off. They're not the same.
I think that's quite different than gender ideology, but people do, I guess.
Someone says I'm happier if I chop my dick off, and we should just let them do that.
Someone says I'm happier if I have a propeller strapped to me because I identify as a helicopter. Shouldn't you let them strap a propeller to themselves?
Right? I mean, women ascribe to certain gender things. You see women getting boob jobs to affirm their gender. I mean, we're in Los Angeles. We see this kind of gender affirming.
So again, you're comparing boob jobs and nose jobs to
they're gender affirming.
Okay, so to kind of circle back around, because Chaya says that Taylor is once again circling back to it, because towards the beginning of the interview, she was making the argument that things like rhinoplasty or boob jobs or whatnot are also gender affirming care, which they are. Things like hair plugs. There are some people who get like surgery to make their muscles look more defined, things like that. Those are gender affirming surgeries. But Chaya it's normalized among conservatives that these aren't considered. They aren't seen as gender affirming surgeries or gender affirming medical procedures. They're just seen as normal, which, you know, that's obviously homophobic because in their eyes, when they say normal, it excludes queer people, you know, LGBTQ people. But, you know, it's the same logic that applied to, like, you know, sexual transition surgery or whatever. It's that's not seen as normal, so it's not okay.
Buying into the lie that they could change their sex.
Breast enhancements are gender affirming for women. There's a
Also,
lot of
let's not forget about Steven Crowder when he got his chest embiggened and he looked like fucking Darth Vader on the fucking medical slab.
women that feel small-chested. They feel like it would be gender affirming for them to have plastic surgery, and they're allowed to do it. And I noticed that you
Also, you know, people like Chaya wouldn't complain about, like, I knew a girl who in middle school was like double D pushing triple D, had back problems, was constantly in pain because of them, and wanted to get breast reduction surgery. If she did go get that breast reduction surgery, people like Chaya wouldn't say a word about it. They wouldn't. Well, actually, they might say that it's an affront to God because God gave her the big titties, and she should have the big titties as a result. But yeah, no, like breast reduction surgery, breast enlargement surgery. Again, they don't talk about these things because they're not something that they can create a moral outrage over, I guess.
don't critique that. I guess I'm curious, Chaya, you know, there are a lot of people that have ideas about women, right? And about what makes a woman, right? What makes a appropriate woman? How should a woman? You're saying you're against people sort of like living lies or living outside this ideology that you've constructed. Some might say, look, we're both women over the age of 25, working. I certainly don't have kids, you know. They might consider that not okay for a woman.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing is, like, conservatives always talk about, like, well, what makes a woman, right? And, you know, they try to cite things like, you know, long hair, makeup, painted nails, like more feminine clothing, so on and so forth. Like, that's what makes a woman, right? But under that same umbrella is that a proper woman is considered someone who stays at home, raises the kids, doesn't work, and like is subservient to their husband. So it's obviously Chaya doesn't fit into these preconceptions, but that's kind of the point, right? They pick and choose what to apply when they talk about what's appropriate, which, I mean, everybody does, but they're hypocritical in their assertions.
Think it's okay for them to dictate
Because they live in ways that they
live
explicitly
your life as a
announce.
woman? Do you think it's up or sort of where does that line get drawn?
So again, you're comparing boob jobs to a teenage girl chopping up her breast.
Completely
Well,
ignoring
first of all, teenage
her
girls
point.
get boob jobs, but breast enhancements are gender affirming for many women. I'm asking you, why is it that people have to live under your sort of view of gender? And
It's not my view. It's science. It's facts. It's biology.
But biology,
Oh God, I think Chaya would
there's a spectrum
break
of
out in
gender.
a cold
There's
sweat if
people
she
that are
looked at a
intersex.
biology
That is a
fucking
very
textbook from
rare
like the 6th
medical
grade.
condition that has nothing to do with someone deciding that they could be the opposite gender.
I guess I'm still kind of struggling to understand how you think, if your view, say tomorrow Trump is elected, he says, all right, we're going to all live by Chaya's, you know, decisions, right? What about all these happy trans
Is she
people?
saying
that are
Chaya or
living their lives,
Kaya?
they're not harming anyone. What harm are they doing by living their life as a woman who've medically transitioned? They're adults. You know, I understand you have problems with kids, but with adult trans people, what's the harm that they're doing to society?
The harm that
To
they're doing to society and
they're
her
spreading
worldview
a
is that they
lie that is
exist.
affecting children also.
So you just believe
She
gender
believes
is-
that them,
is a lie. What
by
if somebody
trans
said
people or queer
trans-
people
you can't
existing,
change
that
your
is
gender.
the harm. That is
And
the
what if somebody
grooming.
said to you, you know, you're not a real
And that's
woman.
what she uses
You're
to
not a real
justify
woman
their
because
eradication.
maybe you don't meet these certain specific definitions of femininity.
That's fine. I don't care. They can call me whatever you want.
But what if you would be forced to live by that system? Do you think it's fair that you would, you know, be forced
Is that
to live?
based in like science?
Well, I don't think any of it's really based in science.
Well, it is. There are
Gender is
two
a
sexes.
social construct.
Well, gender is actually made up.
And here we have it. You know what? I think her career is ruined. Gender, according to Chaya Raichik, is a social construct. It's made up. So, fucking woke mind virus got to her.
Yes, we agree on this. We agree.
By a child predator. By a
Never
pedophile.
mind.
We don't agree.
Yeah,
We don't agree on that.
so he made up gender, and now they conflate the two, and they use it to basically trans kids. So
We
there
gotta
are actually
trans
two
you
sexes,
kids.
and there are 0 genders, and there are many personalities.
The transes will trans your kids.
A lot of LGBTQ people say that your posts cause an enormous amount of pain. How does that make you feel?
How does it make you feel that your reporting on me causes me pain?
I feel sad for that, honestly. Yeah.
Fucking weak ass Taylor Lawrence here. I'm petty. I'm gonna say that the pain that Chaya receives from people like Taylor reporting on her is, first of all, minuscule in comparison to the harm that Chaya causes. But at the same time, I'm sorry, Chaya's suffering is fulfilling to me. I'm sorry. Any pain that Chaya suffers, I wouldn't say it's morally good, but you know what? It makes my soul sing, so.
So would you stop?
No, I'm a journalist and you're a public figure. But I'm just talking about, these non-public figures, right? These non-public figures that are...
Well, if you put yourself out there on a public platform, then you're kind of making
So
yourself
anybody
public.
that posts on social media is a public figure in your mind?
If you're putting your videos out there with the intention that it should go viral, you want publicity.
So if somebody's posting on social media...
God, she's licking her lips so
inherently
much.
posting on social media, you're looking for attention, right? You're saying that meets the bar for a public figure?
I'm not a lawyer.
But I'm asking your opinion.
I think that these people, well, first of all, a lot of the people I post about are actually in positions that are public,
But
teachers,
I'm talking about the people that
doctors.
haven't, right? The individual private citizens that you've posted.
See, what Chaya is basically saying here is that if you're a public figure in any way, shape, or form, you're automatically subject to any harm or even benefit that comes to you as a result of it. Any of it is your fault for putting yourself in the public, which, of course, is stupid because it's the public. Granted, it is the public, so anything can happen to you, but that doesn't make you morally culpable.
Or not, I would argue they're not public figures. You're saying they are public figures because they're posting on social media?
They want to be public. They're public. They're going on a public platform and publicly posting a video on a
So
social media.
again, by that logic, would then having your records in the federal government at all then make you a public figure because technically those records are publicly accessible?
That site that is meant for your videos to go viral.
And what about Twitter? Would you consider Twitter as well a platform where stuff is meant to go viral?
Every social media. If someone posts something on social media, it could go viral. It's always a risk.
Got it. So when you were building your audience and had hundreds of thousands of followers, then would you also agree that you were a public figure?
I think that if anyone who puts something out there publicly, anyone could share their stuff.
Got it. And so, but I'm saying you consider these people, LGBTQ people, who are just posting on social media, public figures.
I said I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the legal
I'm just
definition
asking your
of public
opinion.
figure.
One thing you noted, and I'm only asking this because I know that you've noted that, when I reported on you, that you felt like it was unfair and that you didn't meet the bar for a public figure. So I'm just kind of wondering, as somebody with such a large social media audience...
Wait, has she unironically made the argument that she's not someone who meets the bar of a public figure? She's fucking massive. Doesn't she have literally hundreds of thousands of followers just on Twitter alone? That's ridiculous.
Audiences meet the bar for a public figure. Wouldn't you have considered yourself a public figure?
If anyone puts out content publicly, then that content could go anywhere. That's what I believe. It could go viral. Anyone could share it. It could go to the wrong side. What they call the wrong side of TikTok.
Yeah.
It could go. People will see it. You can't control that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they hate me, because they want to create this content and they only want
Yes,
their bubble.
that's
to see
why
it.
they hate you,
And then
Chaya.
I'm, showing it to other
That's
people, and
why.
they just,
I'm sorry if I keep peeking.
You're editorializing it as well.
No, I provide very little commentary, probably the least from any other Twitter account that's even a quarter my size.
Let's talk about drag shows. You've come out a lot about, you're very against drag shows. Can you give any examples of children being harmed from drag shows?
Yeah, there was one where this mom was saying that her kid decided to be non-binary after watching the drag show, and then the drag queen helped the kid buy like new clothes to be non-binary.
And you could
So this is the harm that they talk about? Really? Like, a drag queen bought some non-binary kid clothes, like new clothes? Is that... I'm pretty sure the parents would be pretty happy about that. Now they don't have to spend food money on clothes, you know? I'm sure the kid and the parents both appreciated that, and on an, you know, an inconceivable amount, you know, like not to get all wishy-washy or anything, but, you know, or sound shallow or whatever, but clothes genuinely can really, you know, how you present, they can really change how you feel about yourself, because they change how you present yourself, you know? I'm non-binary, you know? At least that's how I identify. These are considered feminine clothes. Everything I'm wearing right now are considered feminine clothes, but I'll tell you right now, I feel so much more comfortable in these. I feel more genuine to myself in these than I would any other like, not any masculine clothes, but most masculine clothes. Like, they can change your frame of mind very drastically, because, you know, it's not purely just about the way your body itself looks, you know, it's about the presentation as well.
consider that harmful.
Yeah, well, because non-binary is made up. Like, you can't, there's no such thing as non-binary. And then it just leads a kid on a path where probably they'll end up in a hospital getting some of their body parts chopped off.
It leads them down a
very
path
against
where they'll be in a hospital getting their body parts chopped off as an adult. So, you know, making their own decisions as an adult, something that they can legally do.
Plastic surgery. Are you against?
I'm against sex change surgeries.
What about women that want to get their boobs done, want to get their nose done, want to get cheek implants?
We're just going to go in circles.
Well, I'm just curious.
Because you won't answer the question.
Good to note that you're comparing nose jobs to...
Because you won't actually argue
girls
against
getting
it.
their breasts chopped off.
Well, people often, teen girls also get boob jobs to make their breasts bigger, right? So both are gender affirming in different ways. You seem very obsessed with one and not interested in the other. So that's kind of what I'm interested in. And I guess I don't really understand that, because both are gender affirming in different ways.
I don't call it gender affirming care. I call it sex change surgeries for people who were sold the lie that they could change their sex.
Okay. Well, I guess she doesn't accept that, like, hair plugs, nose jobs, things like that are gender affirming care, but they are gender affirming care. So if she wanted to, so would she then classify, like, getting a nose job as sexual transition surgery? Would she classify that in the same way? I mean, it doesn't really matter, but...
Where do you sort of hope this will end up? You know, like all of this sort of the advocacy that you're doing. I know you said you don't have a 5-year plan for yourself, but what are some, what's if you were sort of like gonna describe your platform? What are some things that you'd like to see, meaningful changes in terms of policies, laws? Oh,
I want to eradicate gender ideology from
okay,
public life.
Yeah, okay. So here it is. This is her in the entire, like, motivating force for her. It's funny because earlier in the interview she constantly deflected when Taylor Lorenz was asking her if she wanted to control what people could do with their bodies and, like, you know, eradicate gender affirming care and things like that. She limp-wristedly would say, that's not what I said, that's not what I implied, that's not at all what I'm doing. But you know what? Then she turns around and she immediately admits it, because she's too stupid she's too stupid to lie about it, frankly. You know, I would say earlier she didn't even lie about it. She deflected. And then when, you know, like, she's contradicting herself constantly. Like, this right here is the real, like, belief that Chaya holds in her heart. She wants to eliminate queer people, but it just starts with trans people and gender affirming care and things like that.
From public life completely?
Yeah, the whole thing
See?
is built on a lie.
See?
Well, you certainly have a gender.
She doesn't believe that gay people can exist. because she thinks it's a lie, and she wants to she doesn't want that lie to spread, so she wants to eliminate any acknowledgement of its existence from the public space.
Yourself?
Gender ideology. No, I don't. I have a sex. Gender. There's no such thing as gender.
Okay.
I said gender is made up. There's no such thing
I
as
agree
gender.
that gender is a completely social construct.
No, it doesn't exist. It's
Okay.
there are zero genders. I have a sex. I'm female.
There are 0 genders.
Yeah.
So you want to live in sort of a post-gender world where everybody can kind of express themselves through personality however they like.
Well, that's what it is now.
Uh-huh.
But they're just calling it gender.
So
But
your problem
there's
is,
males and females.
Don't
And
let Chaya
then-
confuse you here. She's not actually saying that like anyone should be or everyone should be allowed to live how they want, and that gender like. She's not arguing that gender inherently like creates these social expectations on people. She's not arguing that that's like that while it may serve some utility now, later on down the line, that's something we should probably look to eliminate, so that way people can identify by something that's much more personal or much more representative of themselves. That's not what she's saying. She's saying that it's a lie deliberately made up to groom children and to cause social unrest, which isn't the case.
so if
there's
they were to,
infinite.
I'm just kind of curious here, and I'm certainly not a gender scholar, so I'm not sure, maybe somebody sort of posed this question too, but if people were to let's just say, you know what, fine, we eliminate male, female, non-binary, whatever gender, we eliminate that. We're all just people, or we identify by our sex. Would you still be okay with people, wearing dresses if, they appear to be biologically male, or,
No, she wouldn't.
women shaving
She would
their
never
head,
allow that.
things like that. Are you still okay with that as long as they're not calling themselves by a different name?
Don't sexualize kids. That's what I'm against.
But I'm just saying, like, you want to live in a post-gender world where there's no gender, right? And anybody can just have the personality and express themselves however they want.
See, again, what she's implying here is not that someone. Hold on one second.
Or that, are you, women shaving their head, things like that. Are you still okay with that as long as they're not calling themselves by a different name?
Don't sexualize kids. That's what I'm against.
See, she inherently conflates gender non-conforming presentation and behavior to sexual predation and grooming of children. It's not a matter of, people operating outside of like gendered expectations and gender norms, and it's just more about like that existing at all, even in concept, is a form of like grooming and harm towards children. Also, I kind of skipped through it at the beginning, but I do want to talk about how it's weird that that conservatives and Republicans constantly fixate on like the genitals of children and always talk about like sexual reassignment surgery, things like that through that context. It's not about like providing the necessary care to allow people to more appropriately I guess align their body with their self-perception. When progressives talk about that kind of thing, like hormone replacement therapy and whatnot, it's through the lens of like mental health, self-actualization, self-identity, things like that. Actual, genuinely good things for people to strive towards. But when it comes to conservatives, their first and foremost fixation is always on the genitals. It's always through that framing, and it's so fucking weird. Again, pedocon theory is a theory like gravity is theory.
But I'm just saying, like, you want to live in a post-gender world where there's no gender, right? And anybody can just have the personality and express themselves however they want.
That's how it is now. These people who are calling themselves a different gender.
It's not how it is now,
I'm just saying,
unfortunately.
you're
not
right,
really
and
in.
your
Oh,
issue
part.
is with the language around that, right? So I'm saying, let's eliminate the language. All right, do you support people, adults? Let's just talk about adults for the sake of this discussion. Do you support those adults having bodily autonomy, dressing, acting, painting their nails or shaving their head or doing whatever they want to do to express themselves?
I don't care if a guy wants to paint his nails.
So you don't care about.
Leave the kids out of it. Don't sexualize the kids. Don't confuse the kids.
So speaking of sexualization of kids, you know, I think one
See,
group of young people.
a dude painting his nails is inherently destabilizing to the kids' perception of their own like sexual identity or whatever.
The sort of sexualization of young women.
It's reactionary.
In the right-wing media ecosystem, there's a focus on youth and women. There's a focus on sort of.
I really like this part because it highlights how Chaya has literally no critical analysis in her brain. There is no center for it in her brain whatsoever. I don't have to tell you, there is a huge issue of sexualizing youth within the conservatives. More specifically, like young women, obviously, although there is sexualization of young men, it just comes in a different way. But among conservatives, there is a huge emphasis on like the younger the women are, the more fertile, the more attractive, and so on is. It is constantly talked about and reinforced in their atmospheres. You saw in like the pickup artist atmosphere with like Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, other people like that. And it's just you see it with like the wall that women hit at like 25. It's this idea that they constantly circulate is inherently pedophilic. The idea that the older you get, the further away from being desirable that you are is it fetishizes youth. It's pedophilic. It's predatory, and it's extremely commonplace in conservative circles. They constantly talk about it, so it's not like a secret. But Chaya is not going to own up to it.
Women under 25, women losing value with age. This is stuff that's been.
I'm a woman in the conservative movement. I never once felt sexualized.
Which is
a
lie.
Never felt sexualized yourself, but I'm saying, why don't you speak out about sort of sexual abuse in the straight world? I guess.
She doesn't. She doesn't know. She doesn't care about it.
Change topics.
No. I'm saying like. You're saying we're against the sexualization of kids.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Taylor's going to talk about it, but, conservatives sit here and they cry, with outrage towards, like, LGBTQ people, like, supposedly sexualizing children. But they do that as they turn around and they talk about how a girl is fertile and ready for children and considered an adult when they have their first period at, like, 10. So it's like, are you really going to take these people's like criticisms or like moral outrage seriously when they go home at night and this is the kind of thing that they think about, believe, hold close to their hearts,
Yeah.
One group of children that's constantly sexualized is young women. 13-year-old girls, 14-year-old girls are constantly sexualized on the internet, often by conservatives. So I'm wondering, especially given, what some commentary has come from like people at the Daily Wire, for instance, right?
Thank you. I'd rather see this on the Chaya. I wish the entire interview was like this.
Kind of a pedophilic ideology. Why not speak out on that?
I've never seen that. I have no evidence.
You've never seen young women getting sexualized?
I focus on kids.
And you've never
I bet
seen
she
young
does.
Girls getting sexualized?
I've seen young girls getting sexualized. I'm referring to the Daily Wire thing. I can't answer for that.
But let's just talk about young girls. Why don't you speak out about that? Why don't you speak out about sort of heteronormative cisgender men, traditional men, sexualizing young girls, young female girls?
I speak out about the sexualization of kids.
But you don't speak out about sort of the sexualization of kids by straight people.
I don't discriminate on who's sexualizing the kids.
Again, also, I want to say, because to her, that's normal. That's something that she just accepts and lives with. That's just normal. That's why she doesn't even think about it. Because to her, that's just part of her worldview. That's just normal. That's just expected behavior.
Well, but there's only one group of kids that you're talking about, which is you're concerned about sort of people being sexualized by the LGBTQ community. I'm saying a lot of straight older men.
Not necessarily the LGBTQ. I mean, if they're, I don't want straight teachers to be talking about their sexuality in schools either.
So you wouldn't be okay with a straight
Press
teacher,
X to
for
doubt.
instance, discussing their marriage?
I think it's weird. Why would someone discuss their marriage in a classroom?
Gee, I wonder why.
Honestly,
Maybe
I don't
because the
know.
students
You're a
just
teacher.
ask
I feel
about
like
it because teachers
sometimes
keep
do
like
that,
pictures
I
of their
do think that there is a
partners, of
sexualization
their
of
loved ones
children,
on their desk.
from straight couples. I mean, know that I went shopping for a friend recently to find little baby onesies, and when you're looking for little boy baby onesies, a lot of them say, I want, where's my mommy's tits or whatever. You see
Yep.
these kind of, I would say,
There's a
sexual innuendo
weird
on
amount
babies.
of like young like baby boy clothing that is really weirdly like objectifying of women, like sexualizing of women. It's very strange, but like, conservatives and, more traditional people or whatever, well, they don't care. They don't think about it because to them it's normal. They think it's funny and cute, but when you actually look at it and think about it, it's pretty fucking weird that like this literal infant, like a year and a half years old, has like this onesie on that's like, I need my mommy's milk or whatever. It's fucking weird.
He's close.
Or I like my ladies big and thick or whatever. It's so
I've
fucking
never seen you
strange.
post about that. I've never seen you post about sort of sexualization from the straight community, I guess.
I don't discriminate against who's doing the sexualization. I guess, like, what are you defining as sexualization? But I've never said, like, oh, look, here's porn in school, and the librarian is not straight. No, I don't care who the librarian is. I don't care if they're straight or gay or trans or whatever they want to say they are.
Yeah, I just think it seems... I guess I wonder why you don't focus on sort of like young girls as a woman. I mean, were you ever sexualized as a young child?
No.
Yes.
I find that interesting because I think
She's
all
just
women
repressed
kind
it.
of experience that, although it depends on your community. But I do think that there's a focus on women and age as well. And there's this notion
This dude in
that
the
women,
background just walking
lose
across the
value as
street,
they
almost
age.
getting
And
hit by two
I hear
cars.
that all the time in my comments from conservatives.
I've never once seen that.
You've
actually.
never seen that?
No.
I feel like
I've never seen a conservative figure say that women lose value when they age.
Why do you think there's
That's
such an obsession about women and ages then?
An interesting
Women,
statement.
I've never known there was an obsession. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Women and ages.
Yeah. There is a notion, especially platformed by conservative media, that women lose value as they get older. You see this espoused constantly when people are talking about reproductive capabilities. Oh, her eggs
You're
are
saying
dried
when
up.
they promote like family values, like, oh, you should get married and have kids? Is that what you call sex?
I love, she just completely, without even thinking about it, completely reveals her entire hand here, talking about like family values, because it's so funny that she refers to as like the sexualization and predation of young women within conservative families and like communities, which, let's be clear, it's not limited to just young women. There are plenty of, young boys and so on that get exploited too. But, it's mostly women. And I think it's funny how she just straight up admits that like family values, as she considers them, having a wife that's like 15 and whatnot is a core part of that. She just completely reveals her hand there without even realizing it or thinking about it. It's just so fucking funny.
Sexualization?
No. I'm talking about more derogatory remarks made against women and their age. I bring it up because I think a lot of your fans seem to obsess about women and ages, and so.
Also, Taylor has very pretty eyes. I just have to put that out there.
Core, and I never see you speak up about that, so I was just kind of curious about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm wondering, like why you don't speak up about the sexualization of kids.
I don't think it's a problem. I guess I don't see as much. If I saw an example of a child being sexualized, of course I have a problem with, certain things. I will actually, I will say.
So do you think we should give kids porn in school? The images of like gay sex?
There is absolutely pornographic material available to students within their libraries all the time. When I was in high school, just looking for a book for a project, I found one by Stephen King. I think it was called like The House on the Hill or something like that. Very, kind of generic name, not to, shit on it. But within the first few pages was a very explicit sexual scene between the two main characters who were, of course, straight. So it wasn't seen as weird. But that kind of thing is in school libraries all the time. It may not be explicitly labeled as like porn or whatever, but it's in there absolutely. And the reason conservatives don't talk about it is because it is heteronormative like relationships and sexually explicit content. So we see it all the time. It's just conservatives don't talk about it because it's normal.
I went to public school, and in public school, at least when I was growing up, we were absolutely given literature, explaining sex, educating people.
It had pictures of like anal sex.
Oh, absolutely, and it.
That's another thing is like an easy rebuttal to like this kind of argument from conservatives is just bringing up like medical texts. You know, like medical texts will show you the most explicit shit in the universe, but they, you know, it's incredibly common, easily accessible, all that good stuff. You know, it's even literally part of like the curricular within classrooms. You know, you have biology, you have, you know, those, you know, zoology, things like that. So, you know, it's just silly because it's something, you know, well, I should say it is silly, but it is a legitimate concern just in regards to like, because conservatives will get rid of that too. They would easily, very quickly consider that under the same umbrella as like pornographic material that's LGBTQ, you know, eventually they would get rid of that too.
It actually talked about condom use.
What grade?
God, I mean, I don't remember, but certainly probably middle school.
And middle
I think
school
that's
was also
we
when I
had sex
received
ed.
my sexual
So you think
education,
like books
which
like
wasn't
Gender
much
This
for
book is gay. We should give that to kids
what
in
it
school.
was.
I have not read those books, so I don't know. But I do
Okay.
think that it's important to educate kids about sexuality, if nothing else, because, you know, I have spoken to women that were abused sexually when they were young, very young. And one thing that they've told me.
I'm sorry to keep pausing, but that's another thing that's very important to understand is like conservatives don't want sexual education at all, because when you do receive sexual education, you can identify when people are violating your boundaries, your bodily autonomy, and it allows you to kind of fight back against those instances where exploitation or abuse might take place otherwise. And if you can't necessarily directly fight back against it, you know, you can seek help because you're aware of what's being done. But conservatives, people like Chaya, they want to eliminate it because it makes it difficult. It makes it easier, I should say, for predators to take advantage of that lapse in knowledge, which is, you know, like I said, that's why she's against the sexual education just broadly. Trust me, it wouldn't be just LGBTQ sexual education. It would be heteronormative sexual education as well. In fact, she argued against it in its totality earlier in the interview.
Is that they wish that they had the language to talk about it, and they weren't educated. They grew up in I only know two that I've spoken to about this, but they've grown up in sort of societies where they weren't very educated about sex ed. They didn't receive sex ed in class. They went to a Catholic school or other types of schooling. And so I do think it's really important for kids to understand sex, because as we all...
So I want to get personal for a minute, because so I grew up in Idaho, and more so than that, I grew up in a Mormon family. Now, regardless of potential religious affiliation brought on to a child by their parents, the sexual education in Idaho wasn't very good. But, you know, what I received was not helpful. You know, I suffered some sexual abuse when I was a child, which I wasn't aware of because I didn't have that education. Granted, I was still very young at the time, but I think even having some very cursory information would have been helpful. And it was especially confusing down the line trying to understand what happened to me as I grew up, because I didn't have that education. I wasn't able to recognize certain things for what they were. So that trauma went kind of, or I guess trauma or damage, whatever, went unresolved for a very long time. And it wasn't helped because not only did Idaho itself just not provide a very in-depth or useful sexual education, but my family, who of course was Mormon, they also didn't provide it. It wasn't something that we talked about because it was considered sinful. You know, it wasn't something that a child should be aware of because it would be tempting for me to fall into. So I can't stress enough how important sexual education is, regardless of if you're queer or if you're straight. Even if you're like ace, I think sexual education is still extremely important. You know, it helps prevent a lot of damage and suffering. Something that, you know, conservatives, you know, put forward every effort to put an end to. So, you know, it's not a surprise to me that... I guess it's not a surprise to me that Chaya doesn't really recognize that. I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's like sexual education just in general is very important for preventing abuse and exploitation. I'm going to keep harping on it. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to keep saying it until the heat death of the universe. So
All know a lot of teenagers can be sexually active, and I think sex education is important to
another
promote,
thing is like, again, relating to sexual education, regardless of whether or not you are sexually active, which I certainly wasn't in high school for a lot of different reasons. But teenagers, kids, they are sexually active. They're curious. They get up to shit. They do things that them, maybe they shouldn't. I'm not gonna, pretend like this doesn't happen. And by providing sexual education to these kids, like I said, they're gonna get up to it. You provide them a much more safer experience, one that is more satisfying, one that is healthier. It helps prevent things like teen pregnancy, which contributes to like better family planning and so on. So it's just in its entirety, sexual education is critical, especially at such a young age.
healthy attitudes, healthy understandings of sex. I mean, these are human bodies. You can't just expect to send kids off at 18 with absolutely no sex ed and then think that they can function in the world.
So we should give kids like pictures of gay sex in middle school and actually elementary school, some of them.
I guess I'm wondering what you consider that. I think.
Do you want to see a picture?
Well, I don't know, but
to clarify, sexual education is very important. With sexual education, I know conservatives like to fearmonger about this, but you are gonna see pictures of people anal sex. You're gonna see blowjobs. You're gonna see 69. You're gonna see penis to vagina. You're gonna see these things, and it's like, is it? I mean, it's sexual. It's gonna be vulgar by its nature, but you don't have to take that in a negative light. It is what it is. It's how the human body functions. So yeah, it's just.
I mean, are you talking about the ones that you've posted on your Twitter account?
Conservatives like to do the moral outrage about this stuff, but yeah, it's a human body. That's, if you want to, it's the same as showing a diagram for like putting together an engine or whatever. You want to know how it works so that way you can do it if you want to do it. And even if you don't know how, even if you aren't going to do it or don't, plan on doing it or whatever, it's still good information to have.
Yes, those don't look like what I received when I did sex ed, but I think sex ed is important.
Also,
because it actually
I saw a picture of what she's about to show her. I think it's from those books that are like.
Oh no, we had sex ed.
I'm saying the images I posted on my Twitter.
When you
It was
sex ed
those
in school,
books
did you
that
not get
conservatives freaked
books
out about a long time ago.
with graphic
with
imagery?
pictures of gay sex?
I remember, I don't remember how old you are, but I grew up in the 90s when HIV and AIDS was a big thing, and we certainly learned about gay sex in school.
So those pictures I posted
God,
on
I
Twitter,
wish that would have been me.
graphics
Yeah.
like that?
I actually don't know. I don't remember, to be honest. But I do think that it's really important to
But
educate
knowing those
kids.
pictures, you seem to know very well what those pictures are. Do you
I
think
don't.
that?
I don't. I've seen
Oh, you kept referencing it.
Well, I've seen you post
Well,
things,
then
but
I
I
should
don't
pull
know.
it up.
I think this is
But I think
where
yeah,
Chaya is.
Because we need to put this into context.
Yeah.
Oh, context matters now. Interesting.
Well, we won't know
I saw
the
this
context,
clip.
of
This
course,
is
'cause we don't
funny.
know the context of how those things are being taught.
Oh, so we could give kids like pictures of gay sex as long as it's in the proper context?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, it's up to the
I don't care if
educator
that
to
looks good.
determine,
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I guess I'm kind of curious, Chaya, why you sort of focus so much about the LGBT. You keep mentioning gay sex, but you don't mention straight sex. Why is there such a focus on the LGBTQ world?
Oh,
and
I don't want pictures of sex in school. Any pictures.
So you don't think children
Really?
should receive any sort of sexual education, straight or gay?
I said I don't
Well,
want
yes.
pictures of sex in school.
But you think that they should receive picture-free sex education?
No, I think
No.
we discussed this earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious kind of how you're thinking, when you think about the way that you put out content and the way that you think about growing your media empire.
Here, this is a blowjob.
Oh yeah, those are the pictures.
I don't know what book this is from.
Yeah,
Gender
yeah,
queer.
yeah.
Okay.
So should this picture of a blowjob be in elementary schools?
Okay. First off, I haven't read these books, okay, so I don't actually know the full contents of what's inside the book. This is sex. This is part of sex education. I think it would be. I don't see a problem with this necessarily. I mean, what's the difference between showing this and like showing like just a dude and a chick? Like, I don't understand what the difference is, I guess. Maybe the outrage here isn't just that it's like considered queer, but it's like it's a sex toy, because I'm assuming the person here who has the strap on is trans or whatever. But like, part of sex is sex toys, and like, not to be gross or whatever, but you do need to know how to use those safely, because you can hurt yourself with them, you know. So like this, I don't know. Is it a little? Could it be a little like? Could it be considered a little like yikesy? Maybe, but like, I didn't mean to rewind. Where were we? Oh, here we go. Here we go.
But I have no idea.
It has been. I posted about it, yeah.
So tell me a little bit
So
about.
should it be in elementary schools?
I have no idea the context. I have no idea.
So
the
in what
context.
context is it okay if it would be in
I
elementary
have
schools?
absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I would not. I don't know, Chaya, because I haven't seen the rest of that book. I don't know what's in there. I don't know the context.
But there is a context that it would be okay to give kids pictures like that of gay sex, anal sex in
I guess
elementary
Yeah.
school.
I guess sex pictures in school. I don't know because you know who I would defer to on that, just because neither of us are sex educators. I would defer that question to a qualified professional, a sex educator, and say, hey, you're an expert. You've treated you've educated tons of people. You're a full-time sex educator. You've really studied this.
I don't even think the question is about if we if you're for sexual education, the question really does become when it should be introduced. And personally, I do think like elementary school, because elementary goes up to like 5th grade, I think. So I would say maybe cut off is like 4th grade. I don't think we should be showing it to kindergartens, not necessarily because it's vulgar, but because like they're like babies, they're fetuses. They're not going to understand what the fuck is happening. Like they don't get the context. They don't understand the information. So yeah, I mean, like, you should wait till they're older in like 5th, 6th, 7th grade. But if for no other reason, so they can understand what it is you're even telling them or the information you're providing them, you know, like, I don't think you're going to really do any harm, but I don't think you're going to get any benefits by showing this kind of thing to like a kid. They're going to look at it and they're going to be like, I don't know what the fuck this is. So
What are the appropriate boundaries? I don't think that myself as a journalist or a media personality, I don't think I'm the right one to make that decision. And I guess I'm wondering why
I have seen sex educators say that they want these books in schools. So then you're okay with it?
I think I would want to talk to the sex educator and rely on whatever the sex educators say.
Okay.
I'm wondering why you feel like you're qualified to be a sex educator when you have no background in that.
I don't want to be a sex educator. I just don't want to give kids porn in school.
I totally understand. Tell me a little bit more about sort of, just to change topic, about your content world. You put out a lot. You've got a whole staff now. How do you see your business growing, and what areas would you like to expand into?
I'm not going to get into my business strategy.
Uh-huh. Do you see yourself, I've noticed that you've been doing more video content. Are you leading harder into Rumble?
I like doing video content.
Do you have a partnership with Rumble?
No.
Would you?
Maybe.
What are your thoughts on sort of
she's so defensive over
the way
nothing.
that Twitter has evolved?
I love Twitter. It's the best. I love Elon. Elon rocks.
Have you spoken to Elon?
Of course she's sucking
Not
off
like on the
Elon.
phone.
Have you talked? Would you meet with him?
Yeah.
What's been sort of
What's been your kind of criticism of Elon, because you're outspoken against Elon?
Boy, there's a lot to say. I don't know.
I'm a huge supporter of free speech and free expression, and I haven't liked the way that Elon has kind of arbitrarily banned journalists. I think that's a little concerning.
Who did he ban?
Oh, many. I mean, he banned, I think he banned Tyler Brown, the researcher. He banned, obviously, myself, Drew Harwell, other journalists.
So how do you feel about all of the conservatives that were being banned left and right when Jack Dorsey had Twitter?
I don't
I
give
have
a
the
fuck.
personal opinion, and I've said this on Twitter and many times, that, look, it's up to every private platform to set their own community
Those bannings are not
guidelines.
comparable to the ones that
I'm
Elon
not a huge believer in
has
permanent
dealt out, by
bans.
the way.
And I've always said that. And I defend that in the sense that these platforms evolve and people's usage of them evolve and people evolve. As you just said, you were a completely private citizen 5 years ago. You had no political ideology. Now you have a political ideology. You're a very different person.
She
So
does
when I
not
got
have a
banned
political
from Twitter,
ideology.
You were upset at that? Like you thought that was wrong?
I don't remember you getting
What she
banned
has
from
is a
Twitter.
strong
got
disgust
banned from
reaction
that.
and a
Not
desire
permanently, but
for
previously.
money. That's what
Yeah,
she
yeah,
has.
Yeah. My feeling about any bans is that there should be a path to redemption, should you say. That doesn't mean that I don't think that it's in the right prerogative to ban people for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I just personally feel like if you're going to issue lifetime bans, you should give people a path to abide by community guidelines. If you join back on and you...
I think that's kind of fair. I don't know how I feel about, like, I don't know. I think a permanent ban should stand as long as it's demonstrable that the person hasn't meaningfully changed their positions or what have you. But I think if, like, you got permabanned 5 years ago because you were running up and down Twitter with racial slurs and whatnot, but now you explicitly denounce that and you've grown and changed to a person. I think that should, I guess it should change the punishment a little bit. But I'm not going to sit here and say that permanent bans are not useful, because you do have people like Alex Jones who should be permanently banned. You have people like, honestly, libs of TikTok who should be permanently banned, because I don't think they demonstrate an ability to get better. I think they're so far dug into their holes that they can't change that attitude or the positions or whatever that they have. So I think in those cases, like, permanent bans should stand. But yeah.
break community guidelines again, look, that's on you. But personally, I think that,
Also, permanent bans as a result of, like, a TOS violation or whatever, which, I mean, obviously if it's a permanent ban, that's what's gonna, usually precede it, but, it's on you, there's a terms of service. If you're not going to abide by the rules, then you don't get a bitch when you're banned.
that's just my belief, and I've talked about that for years. I think that there should be a path to abiding by. If somebody says, hey, look, I know I broke community guidelines, I know what I was posting was wrong, and in sort of violating those rules, I could see tech companies allowing that back. And actually, that's what Elon has done, right? I mean, he reinstated all those people that were permanently banned.
Elon is the greatest free speech warrior, I think, of all time.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, I tried.
Taylor's like totally taken aback by that. She's like, what? She's like, what the fuck are you on something? Give me some.
I think what else? I feel like I've gotten through
Yeah,
most
I think
of these
that's
things.
it. I think we're good.
What else do you have going on?
Nothing much, I'll just continue making fun of the media like I do best.
I still can't. I don't think you answered me to begin with. But what are some of your favorite media outlets?
I said I like independent journalists.
But who?
Like some of the people I follow on Twitter have the best news.
Like who? Like
I love independent media journalists like Matt Walsh and Elon Musk and Michael Knowles, and I love them so much. Those independent media journalists are just the best.
who are your top three?
I would say, first of all, I love Daily Wire. I like Ben Shapiro, Matt
Yep,
Walsh.
nope.
I like
Oh my-
everything they do.
I can see the
like-
fucking future. I can see
I
the
really
future.
like Jack Posobiec. Shout out to Jack.
Of course.
He's great. I like Mike Cernovich. He's cool.
I don't know who that is.
Who else is there? Yeah, there's a few others.
Are you still on Substack, by the way? I know you had a Substack at some point.
Yeah. What are your top media place for news?
404 Media. Love 404 Media. Are you familiar with them?
It's remarkable how little personality Chaya has, frankly. This entire interview, she's been, like, stiff as a board, completely unwilling to engage in casual conversation or friendly banter or anything, I don't think she's obligated to reveal personal details or anything she's uncomfortable with, obviously, but at the same time, it's like, you're in an interview, you are a public figure, you have a brand to uphold. I think you should try to be a little more personable, a little more human, but unfortunately, people like her are just literally incapable of doing that, so...
Great website, independent journalists. Walter Bragman, who does Important Context, great Substack writer. A huge fan of his work. God, there's so many. Matt Bellany, Lucas Shaw, Julia Alexander. Yeah, great people.
Okay, so before we finish this off, I'm going to go back and try to find the Great Replacement clips.
Guess in the conservative movement, there's this ideology around sort of white nationalism,
I
which
think
is
I just
obviously
clicked to
kind
it.
of a hardline ideology that's generally been pretty critical of Jewish communities. And I'm wondering, as a Jewish woman, how do you feel about sort of aligning yourself? I feel like there's been, especially on my colleagues have done great reporting on. I don't give a corollary, right? A lot of
Coming into our border,
Oh.
there are definitely minors to
job.
so she chops off her breasts.
I'm a big, you know, I believe in personal liberty and bodily autonomy personally.
So kids should be able to. Children's National Hospital.
So, I mean, just let's give a corollary, right? A lot of Jews have spoken about free speech before. How many have you read?
I don't live under a rock. You want to see it?
And in your comments, sometimes you'll see a lot of commentary about sort of the Great Replacement theory.
Oh, here we go.
What are your thoughts on that?
What are your thoughts on the comments on your post telling me to kill myself?
Horrible. Yeah, horrible.
Deflection.
Obviously against that. Yeah.
So will you come out and condemn that publicly?
Oh, I would condemn it anytime. I'm against murdering anyone, of course.
So you're against death threats against me?
I'm a big, you know, as somebody that's dealt with a lot of online harassment, I don't defend threatening to murder anyone. But I guess I'm curious, you know,
because a lot of times it comes after an attack in the media, like someone like you or another journalist.
So are you saying that, like, you know, if somebody posts something and then attacks
Okay, well, I don't know if I'll find the Great Replacement thing.
liberty. I grew up in a town.
So you're comparing 16 girls. There were some months over the.
You know, Europe came over here also as immigrants.
I'm trying to find
and
it.
There's a lot of criticism towards Jewish people in those.
Well, just to kind of sum up her position for her, obviously she believes in the Great Replacement theory. She thinks that people are coming across the border, or, well, she believes that people are being brought across the border to, quote unquote, destroy America. I think it's just worth mentioning that when she makes these arguments, what she means is that the brown, black, and whoever else people coming across the border are destroying America simply by existing here because America is a white country, which is what she believes. Obviously, I don't need to point out how that's racist. I also don't need to point out how she's wrong about the Great Replacement theory. Is the number of white people decreasing over time as we get more and more different ethnicities and whatnot here? Of course, it's not a bad thing, though. You know, shocker, but racism is, as they say, skin deep. You know, even if they're brown or they're black, white, or purple, they're still people, and they have every right to be in this country. You know, it goes without saying, you know, that it doesn't matter if there's 50,000 white people, you know, in America 100 years from now, or if there's 5 white people 100 years from, in America 100 years from now. The reality is that it just doesn't matter. You know, these people, they're going to come here. They're going to be people, you know, it doesn't matter if they bring their cultures or what have you. You know, bring your cultures. You know, America's the great melting pot. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that before we finish this out. Chaya explicitly says, you know, the whole some cultures are better than others. Obviously, she's probably referring to, you know, white culture being superior to, like, black culture, African culture, whatever. So, yeah, that was the Chaya Raichik interview. She looked like a fucking clown. She couldn't defend literally any of her positions. She constantly contradicted herself and was a hypocrite the entire time. She is completely vapid, devoid of any personality or human spirit. She is a demon in human clothing, and I think it's important to remember that when you're scrolling through Twitter or you hear her name or you know, whatever else. At the end of the day, you know, people like Chaya may make the world seem a lot darker than it is, but, you know, people are actually much more supportive, kind, and caring than you realize. So don't lose hope when you hear the things she says or see the things she does. Thank you for watching to nobody, because I completely fucked with the stream initially and then nobody watched afterward. But you know what? I had fun for my first stream. I'm going to be doing this going into the future much more often. I'm going to try and also make some YouTube videos. So Please like the stream, subscribe if you see potential in me, or don't if you don't feel like it.